We hope you had a great bye week, everyone. Welcome back to the Coach McVay Show, presented by Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PC. Great to see you, Sean. The news of the day, the big question, of course, how was the second birthday party?
Oh, it was great. Jordan, it truly, last year, the first birthday was more for the adults. This was truly for him. He's so happy. It was dinos and trucks.
Yes.
There was some tractors involved too, and the smiles and the excitement and singing happy birthday to him and watching. I met a lot of new people too. Veronica does a great job with these mommy and me classes, and so I got a chance to meet a lot of his friends that I hear or see the pictures of, and so it was cool. We had a great time, and he was all smiles, and he was a happy boy.
Who hit the bounce house harder, you or Aaron?
That would be me. I ended up hitting it a little bit harder, and it was one of those deals. We had a great time though, and ultimately, most importantly, Jordan had a great time, and it's fun watching him continue to grow. And I really enjoyed, you miss being around as much as you'd like, and I look forward to those moments where you get to see him, or even if it's on the FaceTime, and even being away from him for a week and a half and then being able to have the bye, it was perfect, and really enjoyed it.
Love that. And then have you changed all your pins and passwords?
Yeah.
After Cam Curl and the Mentalists were here.
That's exactly right. Oz told me that the 60-minute special is coming out, so the pin number has been changed. I got a bunch of texts. Hey, what is the numbers? 5831 media. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that was a cool experience. Our team enjoyed that. That was during training camp, and the pin is officially changed, so nobody can do anything with that.
All right. Check out 60 Minutes. Great episode if you haven't seen it. The Rams make a cameo there. Okay, the real story of the day. Roger McCreary is now a Ram, a former second-round pick, predominantly played in the slot in Tennessee. Any chance you'd be able or willing to detail how he fits into your secondary?
I think really it provides depth. We've got such a unique player in Quentin Lake that can do so many different things. God forbid, and if something were to happen, it solidifies that if he wasn't able to play the star, you got somebody in. But I think more than anything, a guy that has some inside-outside flex, overall competitor, felt like it kind of fit. We've got some injuries where, Akello obviously has been banged up. We've missed him, and we'll get him back at a certain point. D. Will got a little banged up with his shoulder. Been really pleased with Jacoby and Emmanuel Forbes. But being able to add depth to our room, a guy that might be able to help us out on the perimeter on some special teams. And Aubrey coached him in the Senior Bowl when we were talking about him. Really enjoyed him. And so I respect the heck out of him as a competitor. Just going against him, coaching against him in week 2, what he's been about. And so I think it just adds, good depth to the mix, and then once he gets here, then we'll see where he fits and how we can maximize his skill set.
But a 25-year-old with a good draft pedigree, been coached well in a contract year, so certainly motivated. What's the corresponding roster move there?
Yeah, the corresponding roster move will be we'll put Tutu Atwell on IR, and got his hamstring. He tried to be able to push through. He had tweaked it the week before. Thought it was, really nothing to it. And then, he actually got it a little bit in the Jacksonville game, and he pushed through. But we need him, when he's out there, we need him to be that Lamborghini speed. And so we're going to give him that time to be able to get right. We'll be better when we get him back. It's a bummer, but, love Tutu, but that'll be the corresponding move.
More on the health front and that Jacksonville win in just a second, but let's stay with the trade deadline. I know it's a fool's errand to ask you about, but I'm a fool, so let's go there. You're in a window, right? You got a quarterback who can get you there, is playing as well as maybe he ever has as a Ram. Does that give you license to take a big swing if you're able?
Well, I think so, but I also think you have to ask yourself, what is the goal? Where are we? Where can we improve? What are the resources that are even available, or what are the possibilities of who you would bring in, and what would the expense of those things be? And so I feel really good about where our team's at. I think when you look at Roger being able to add to some depth on the secondary, we've had some injuries there. So I love the group that we have. You would never say never, but there's a lot of layers to that. Who are we talking about? What position? What's the cost? All those layers to it. But I feel really good about where our football team's at and how we can improve with the group that we have in-house. What are the ways that we can grow and build upon some of the things that maybe you've seen in glimpses? How do you take a step back? How do you look at it? And how do you say, all right, for these 10 games that we're guaranteed, what can that look like to really build in all 3 phases? Because, we're 5-2. I think there's a lot of areas for growth and improvement with the people that we do have, which is exciting. And I think there's been some good stuff that we can build on as well. And that's kind of the approach that we take. I don't know if that answers anything you just asked me.
No, but it was a good filibuster, and I'll follow up one time. What about the way that Matthew's playing? Hey, why steal from 26 or even 27?
Yeah, no, and I think that's fair. What are we getting better? What is the cost of that? And I think when you look at it, some of the depth that we have in-house in terms of, all right, hey, do we need to go add somebody, or can we take better advantage of who we have here that we put our arms around and that we have trust in and have, some, experience in terms of, accumulated reps with them within the framework of the things that we're asking. And I do feel good. I think it's one thing if there's some glaring gaps, or if there's somebody that's available that can, that definitely upgrades where you're at. And I just don't know that there's a lot of situations that you need to reach for something that might not necessarily be there.
You said the record, 5-2. Certainly a better position than the Rams have been in at this point in the year, the last couple. So job well done in terms of starting faster. But all 5, as you know, against the AFC, winless against the NFC. Bye week, that kind of put it in perspective for me, at least, how much work there still is to be done.
Yeah, there's a lot of football left. You got 10 games left guaranteed. This thing is far from over. If there's any, experience that you can draw on, look no further than what the last 2 years have entailed. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. But, okay, good. We've started better. God, there's still so many learning ops within the framework of those 7 games. And you know what? You could say, oh, we should be this or that. No, we're 5-2. That's what we are. How do we look at it? How do we make sure that we address and acknowledge the things that need to have improvement? How do we lean into the things that we've done well and continue to try to replicate that? But most importantly, how do we improve? And how do we get better as the season progresses? How do we lean into our daily approach? How do we stack days that allows us, to be able to consistently build and develop that stamina that's going to be required to do what we want to do and go where we want to go?
Since more than a week has gone by, we won't rehash London too much here, but we do want to go through this 2-play sequence early in the fourth quarter. It's time for our film breakdown segment presented by Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PC, where every day is game day. All right, so Sean, it's 4th and 5.5 at the plus 35. You're up 21.
Yep.
Offense on the field. Do you have any intention of taking this snap for real?
Yeah, we had a play called maybe, but ultimately, what I think this is a great job by our guys. You could see, this is always, it never gets old, but what a great job drawing them off sides. And, we talk about with that guy adjacent, if he crosses over to the neutral zone, you reach out and touch. And pretty good acting job by 23, but also a good job by Steve, And then the heel click and the excitement. What I love about our group is they enjoy playing football. They're having fun. I think we're at our best when this is illustrated. You could see multiple examples of that. You earn the right to enjoy it, but it always starts with the appropriate urgency. And this is a great job by Matthew and the group. And you can see both Alaric and Steve were going to be able to get that 5-yard penalty. I don't know how many guys are as smooth and fluid as Steve at the left guard position to be able to heel click and get excited like that. But Steve is a very good athlete, and he also has a lot of fun. That's a cool one there.
We'll get to the touchdown in just a second, but let me follow up on Steve while you're talking about him. How have you felt his impact in his return?
Yeah, I think he's done a great job. I think, first of all, what's been great is Steve is a guy that he is still young, ascending, but he's gone through some different things over the last couple of years where he's really never been injured in his career. And whether you go back to last year, having to be able to overcome that, and I thought he played really tough when he came back, had to approach his rehab. And then this year, he comes back in the game against the Texans. That's what people don't realize. He comes out of the game, comes back in the game. Those high ankle sprains have a little bit of a delayed effect on you where then you realize, oh man, I got my ankle pretty good. I thought he did a great job with Reggie and his group. I thought he earned the right to get back out on the grass with the way that he practiced and performed, and then just, the sturdiness, the way that he's able to get fit on some of the combinations, his overall awareness, but his enjoyment, and I think that's cool to be able to see. You're watching a guy authentically mature, be who he is, but still have that appropriate sense of focus and concentration that's required to play at a high level. And I think he's doing a great job of threading the needle. It's been great having Steve back in the mix.
One celebration begets another. Let's go to 4th and inches.
Yeah, no, this was cool. And this was something that, this is such a great job by the offensive line and really our tight ends. You look at Higbee coming in, the 5 technique loops out, Davis Allen battling on the edge, selling a little bit of a boot. And I thought this was incredible patience by Terrence Ferguson to not rush this route. You get a 0 type of coverage. He leans this out. He had 42 had been hit on something similar the week before against Seattle, but it's a great job. It's a great job by the line protecting. Great job by Matthew to get it up and down, and excellent late hands, and cool for Terrence to be able to get in and, only going to continue to build. But none of these things occur without great play by your teammates. But this one kind of, this put the nail in the coffin to go up 28-0. This was big, and I was really happy for the overall execution. But this two-play sequence was cool. We showed that in the team meeting as well.
How does T. Ferg elevate your ceiling?
Well, I just think the ability, I think, number one, I think he's got great examples of what it looks like. Scooter Huff does such a great job with that room as a whole, but when you got Tyler Higbee, you got Colby Parkinson, you got Davis Allen, and that's what it looks like with how they approach it every single day. Man, it's easy when you see it, and then you could say, let me replicate their rhythm and routine while putting my own spin on it. He's obviously a dynamic player in the pass game. I think he's playing tougher in the run game, and so just things like what you saw there, things like what you saw in the third down catch that he made against the Niners. I think he can just continue to add another layer and another playmaker to our offense, in the tight end room in general.
When I left you in Baltimore, I think I told a couple of people, Sean's got a look in his eye this week.
Yeah.
Am I wrong that there's an element of you like the challenge of, I know you want the league's best receiver out there, but you lean into a moment where, hey, Puka is not going to play this week. I got to solve the puzzle?
Well, I think it was collectively. I think, I give Mike LaFleur and our offensive staff a ton of credit, but I think what was good about that is like, all right, what you did feel a little bit in Baltimore is you got this great player and you've got two guys that have really gotten the majority of the targets in both he and Devontae. And we look at it as we've got two number one receivers. Mm-hmm. Well, there still are a lot of other really good playmakers that we do have. And how do we take advantage of them while also keeping everybody involved? The best offenses, I do believe, spread the ball around and they make you honor all five eligibles. I think being able to lean into some different personnels is going to be helpful to us as we move forward, which we saw. And so I think it was a positive, sometimes I use the word blessing in disguise. You don't ever want somebody to get injured, but in the meantime, you're saying, hey, what does that open up? It opens up an opportunity for other guys. You see Mumph, you see Ferg get their first career touchdowns. You're seeing Xavier Smith make contributions. You're seeing Colby Parkinson, Tyler Higbee, Davis Allen. And so, get the backs involved. So I think that's what we want to be able to do. And I think as a positive motivation, but I think it's more than anything, what's cool is you want to do right by these guys. When your motivation is I want to work hard to try to be able to elevate those people, make them feel believed in and get them opportunities where they feel like their role can contribute to the outcome and it's important. I think that's when you're at your best. Those are the best cultures that I've been a part of and thought our guys did a great job of bringing it to life. But also, like I said, I think Mike and the offensive staff deserve a ton of credit for their game plan.
What do you make of Devontae saying that Kanate reminds him of a young him? I mean, that got me fired up.
It got me fired up. That's what I liked about his tape. You could see just the ability, where he's wired, to be able to work edges on people. We use the term being able to get parallel and gain ground and double up on people. And he's wired to separate. I think he's got some unique shake and wiggle in his game that you could see that's a tremendous compliment. But he's a young sensei of Devontae is what Mumph is.
One thing I heard you say in London a couple times this season, really, that you wake up, you get caffeinated, you kick off, talking about having success in the East Coast. I didn't know you were a coffee guy.
I'm not.
I've never seen you drink coffee.
No,
okay.
I get my own, whatever that is, whether it's through Celsius. If I'm having coffee, that means I'm really tired.
Okay.
But it was more for the other guys. Whatever you need to do, get some stuff in your system that gets you picked up. That's what I meant by
Look,
that.
if parenthood didn't get you, maybe your 40s will.
That's right.
We'll cycle back.
Yep.
We'll get you hooked up with the barista. A thought on defense, and I wonder if collectively we shouldn't elevate our sights in terms of what Chris Shule and this defense are capable of. You look at the metrics at the midway point, they've been downright dominant.
Yeah, no, they've been excellent. And I think it's been a collective effort. I think we're playing really connected, 11 as one. I think we're rushing well as a unit. I think we're understanding, how rushing coverage comes together. Mm-hmm. I think we've got multiple things that we can present. I think we've been really efficient on the early downs that has earned us the right to be able to almost grab the pen and have it in our hand on defense in some of those known pass situations. But, you're seeing a lot of different guys influence and impact the game in a positive way, and that's what I love. And, I don't know what the expectations are externally. Me, I kind of stay pretty ignorant to that stuff, but I'm interested in what does the tape tell me? How do we evolve and adapt on a weekly basis? How do we maximize our players in the situations and circumstances that we're dealt and put these guys in positions for the most successful outcomes while enjoying that preparation and that approach? And I think Chris and our defensive coaching staff have done a phenomenal job, and then the players are bringing it to life. But, man, it's a fun group. I think we've got great leadership. I think when you look at the captains, with Kobe Turner, with Nate Landman, with Quentin Colton Lake, and then I could name a bunch of other guys, but these guys do an excellent job. I think it's cool that they're reflected on all three levels of the defense. I think we're playing really connected, and I've been pleased with so many guys that I could point out, but I love this group, and I know I have high expectations for what they're capable of. I don't know what the external expectations are.
Well, I could argue top 5. I could argue top 3, but that's for a different show, not the Coach McVay show. I do know this: your sack leader from last year is dying for one.
Yeah.
Braden Fisk was so close so many times.
You know what I think's cool, though? Here's what I would say. I'm a big believer in this. I think stats are for losers, right? And so, people that usually spend their time, going in stats, you're probably not worried enough about winning the game. And so what I said and what I saw on the tape, I want to see, all right, who are these game wreckers? Who are these guys that are influencing and impacting the game on a positive way? And whether you're talking about forcing a throwaway on a fourth down, whether you're talking about forcing a guy to move and slide, and now that gets a sack for Verse on the very first play when he does a great job on his arrow technique to be able to beat the guard with great hands. Braden Fisk, I don't care what the stats say, that guy balled the other day, and he did a great job of affecting our defense's outstanding performance. I'll ride with that guy. Those things will come, but when you watch that game and you're saying, is 55 making an impact, relative to, I don't know what show up on the stats, but I know I got a bunch of plays that I'm tagging and that we're tagging as coaches to show what a G55 is.
No doubt. All right, some injury stuff. You said Puka's good to go?
Puka's good. He should be, unless there's a setback, plans are to have him go through a good workout with Reggie and his group. Same thing with Rob Havenstein, and then get both those guys back out on the practice field on Wednesday and have them ready to roll this week.
Yeah, how do you handle that with Rob? Because at right tackle, it seems like Warren's performance has been starting caliber in this league, but that's been Rob's job for a decade now.
Yeah, and I think, what you feel fortunate is you got 2 starting right tackles. You got a guy in Warren McClendon that only continues to get better. He's played really well. Rob's a captain. Rob's done his thing, and so I think Rob's chomping at the bit to be able to get back out there. We're excited to be able to get Rob back out on the practice field. What you love about Rob is Rob's enough of a man to be able to tell you, do I feel like I can return to performance and get back out there and help the team? And I trust him, and if he's feeling good, he'll be able to do that. But, man, what a cool luxury that we have to see Warren's ascension. Ryan Wendell and Rob has had a tremendous influence on, what Warren's done. And I'm really happy for Warren and what he's done. And, it's cool to see.
What's a reasonable updated window for a potential Akella Witherspoon return?
Yeah, it's funny. I got asked that earlier. When at the time of the injury, we said about 12 weeks. And so Akella feels like that's a little bit long estimation. He's been out there doing his thing. He's around. He's present in meetings. You always see him in the training room working with Reggie and his group. I saw him even at Camden Fields doing some individual with Aubrey. And so I think we're probably still a little bit of ways away from even starting to talk about that. But 12 weeks from the time of injury, so wherever that would put us, from the Tennessee game to fast forward 12 weeks. I'm not smart enough to do all that math.
Oh, yes,
but
you are.
You are, you could tell me. But I know this, when we get him back, we'll be better overall, but he's done a great job of, leading, communicating, and you can really see, he's got just a nice way about himself, and he's got a lot of wisdom from the amount of experience that he's played in this league.
Let's talk Cardi in the field goal unit. Extra points only, which was nice in London. How can this midseason reset the extra time on task set them up for a good second half?
Well, number one, I think our protection's been really good. I think the operation has been much improved relative to the timing of, from snap to kick, the trajectory. And really, hey, we had 5 examples. We were 5 for 5. That represents a step in the right direction. You continue to lean in. We're going to make it an emphasis. There's more points that go through that unit than anything else. Hopefully, it's more often than not we're kicking extra points like you alluded to. And I think that's a big thing. Got to finish drives in the red zone with touchdowns. And when we're able to do that, I don't care what the final numbers and all that say. I care about how many points can we score, and are we scoring more points than the opponent. But I did think a big difference, if you just look no further than the difference between that and the Baltimore game, we had 2 tight red area possessions that we don't come away with points. We're 4 for 4 against Jacksonville, and it results in a 35-point compared to what, could have easily been 31 if I just gave you 2 plays where we're capable of, being collectively better, always starting with myself. And so I was really positive on the field goal operation, and I'm excited about leaning in and continuing to improve throughout.
Well, welcome home. Glad you're refreshed.
Yeah.
The schedule sets up such that the Rams do not leave the state until after Thanksgiving. 3 of the next 4 at home. Hope you can join us as soon as this weekend at SoFi against the Saints. And you got a bonus Monday practice ahead of you.
Bonus Monday, be able to get these guys out there, and looking forward to it.
All right, for Sean McVay, I'm your resident stat loser, JB Long. Thank you for joining us, as always, on the Coach McVay Show, presented by Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PC.